All right, everyone, you are welcome to Just Destined Ladies Talk with Osamema. And if you are wondering what Just Destined Ladies is about, it's a ladies' network that is interested in the affairs of women. Yes, we're interested in your career, your business, your spirituality, your marriages, and relationship. And with me today, I have two beautiful representatives of the Just Destined Ladies Network. Can we meet you, please? What's your name, ma?
Okay, my name is Favor Olatunji.
How about you, ma?
Florence Ice.
Okay, so I have by my left Mrs. Favor Olatunji, and by my right, my very bountiful right, we have Mrs. Ice. Okay, so today we are going to be discussing something that we don't really pay attention to, but it's also very important in relationship and marriages. And what am I going to be talking about? I'm going to be talking about fantasies versus reality in marriages. Now, what do I mean by this? Those of us that are still single, we have like expectations, fantasies, those things that we want to see in our marriages. I'm not married, so I don't know if it actually comes to reality after then. So I would like you to share with me, starting from you, Mrs. Favor. What were some of those fantasies you had before getting into your marriage, and what is the reality of it now?
Okay, one fantasy I can really remember, because these things fade away with time. One I can remember is breakfast in bed.
Breakfast in bed. Okay, how is that going?
And to the grace of God, it has never happened for once. Until lately, there was just one morning. I was waking up and I saw my husband in the kitchen. What's going on this morning? And I saw him preparing spag and all. I was just like, what is this man doing? And he came saying, you're woken up. Don't wake up yet. Go and sleep back. I want to give you breakfast. So I went back to the room to lie down. And then after I finished cooking the food, he brought it to the room. He said, you want to eat in the room? He said, no, come and sit and balance. So that's just one of those things, one fantasy. When you watch too many romantic movies, that's what you end up with. But the reality is, it doesn't actually always happen. I'm not saying that it doesn't happen, but it shouldn't be something you should be, really, really, really fascinated about. So that's just one for now. Thank you.
So your husband served you breakfast, but not the conventional breakfast that we are used to. It was the actual breakfast in bed. And I must say, kudos to your husband. That's really good. So how about you, Mrs. Ice? Has your husband served you breakfast in bed or on the ceiling or wherever?
Never.
Well, let's even address the actual one. Can your husband even cook?
Okay, to some extent.
To some extent.
Kind of.
Okay.
Food.
Okay, that's good. So what are some of the fantasies you had before getting married? And what is the reality of those fantasies now?
One of my fantasies then was I wanted a man that could stand as a father, because I didn't really have that, didn't enjoy that attention from my father before he passed away. And but actually, that fantasy has been coming to reality, but not 100%, because my husband is someone that is very attached to his phone. So sometimes when you need his attention, probably you are sick or anything, the highest thing he can ever tell you is that, babe, sorry, and he will leave you there, go to the sitting room,
Husband,
give his attention to his phone. But actually, I've learned to live with it since I discovered that that's the way he is. So I'm good.
All right, so I will come back to you, Mrs. Olatunji. Now, talking about these fantasies, I know you don't just have one fantasy. Is there a way you can actually make those fantasies come to reality without bothering your husband? Now, let me make you understand. Take, for example, you have this fantasy of you want a weekend getaway. It's a fantasy you've always had, a weekend getaway. But your husband is someone who doesn't really take those things as important, or he's a busy person. Is there a way you can actually convert those fantasies to reality in your relationship or your marriage, rather?
Okay, if you are talking about this particular one you just said now,
not this one, any fantasy at all.
Okay, because that one was not part of my fantasies.
Is it possible? Is it possible
to do things that will make him like give into my fantasies?
Yes.
I really can't say. Everybody have what they want to do in mind. You know, sometimes it's really hard to, especially when it comes to men, it's really hard to get them to do the things you want them to do. They like to do this at their own convenience.
Exactly. And when you name me, I'm not married though, but but when you start telling them about certain things you want them to do, it does not look like you are forcing them to do things. And
Exactly.
I
Like one other fantasy I had was always he knows one of my love languages. In fact, that was one of the things that he used to get me when we were still single. But the moment we got married, he just started coming once in a while. He knows that I love to hear words of encouragement. I love to be reassured that, okay, we are in this together, stuff like that. But Baba, he just when he feels like it. And one thing about him is when he wants to. You can't really force him. When you now try to force him to do those things, you will not get the effect, You just look like he's just playing it. But the moment it comes from his heart, he just does it when he wants to. And that fantasy I think I had was like a man who will be involved in the home as well, not just leaving everything to me and then you just come and see me work myself to death. Like, we do things together, and I thank God for his life. Even if sometimes when he doesn't feel like there's nothing you can do in this world, he will sit down and watch the TV while you do other things. But when he feels like doing those things, he would actually go out of his way to do them. So that's just what I've noticed. So I don't believe in trying to force a man to do the things you want him to do. Although sometimes you can try to initiate those things yourself. And then when he sees that, okay, this woman, it looks like she wants this, he can then reciprocate or respond in that regard. That's what I think.
I hope you are learning, because I am. All right, so Mrs. Ice. Now, I would want you to tell me, in what place does communication, like what role does communication play in when it comes to, fantasies and reality of relationships or marriages? Now, let me explain what I mean. You have this fantasy, you want something from your husband, you want your husband to do something. It's something that has been on your mind, you've been thinking about and reminiscing on, and then he's not doing it. Do you think communication can actually help in closing that gap?
Communication is a very powerful tool in relationship. Okay, I'll cite an example. Recently, like, we had our wedding anniversary, and like a month before, I already started planning something for him. But from all indication, I was not seeing it coming from his own end.
Well, wait, let me ask, what are men like that? Like, it's very common. I read about it a lot, and I'm like, why? Anybody.
Some men are not like that anyway. It's not as if he doesn't see it as important, as necessary. So one way or the other, I brought it up, and he was like, me, I'm not even thinking towards that direction or another. I say, no, this one, you must do something, no matter how little. That is not even in the size of the gift, that is in the heart. And lo and behold, I got what I wanted.
Hallelujah. Okay, so not to take much of our time, we have come to the end of today's discussion regarding fantasies and reality of relationship and marriages. And this is to those of you that are listening. Your fantasies can also come to pass in your marriage, as long as you are able to communicate and relate your intentions to your partner and your spouse. Till I come your way again next time on this very same stage and platform, I remain your host, Osamema, and it's bye for now.